Hello everyone, welcome to our spring training video series brought to you by the Nozzleheads. We are a group of 4 BASF tech reps in the Midwest with over 30 years of combined field experience. Over the next 2 months, the Nozzleheads will cover important and timely topics for use in the field this spring.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us again today. Jared, today we're going to talk about a very important topic, and that is mixing order. And when we get into the heat of herbicide applications, we're mixing chemicals every day, and sometimes we may not think about a proper mixing order, and there's a little bit of a science to it.
Absolutely, Mike. And I think some of that comes down to we're not just mixing one product in water anymore. We're putting a lot of different products together in the same tank mix, and with all the different formulations of products come in, it really does make a difference which order they go in there, because getting them out of order can cause us a lot of headaches, and you and I have both seen over the years.
Yes, it can. When you get out of order or maybe start to follow some of these practices that we wouldn't recommend, you can get into situations like you see on the screen where you've got some incompatible tank mixes or maybe even some clogged screens or nozzles.
Yeah, and that really impacts how our herbicides hit the ground, how effective they are. If we can't get them out of that sprayer because we've got it gunked up, we're really getting a lot of trouble. So one of the ways that I try and remind people, because there's a lot of nuances that get involved, is just to keep it simple, right? Mm-hmm. So use the method that we call the Dale's method. And this is the order you want to generally think of when you mix these pesticides together. You always want to start with some water in your tank and then go with dry products first, AMS second, liquid products next, like true liquids or SCs, and then ECs next. So that would be the emulsifiable concentrates, the E for Dale's, and then the S would be your surfactants or adjuvants. If you stay in that mixing order, a lot of times you'll stay out of trouble and have a very successful application.
I agree, Jared. What do you think we go and look at a few examples?
Sounds like a good idea. So we're out here in the shop, and we're going to show you what this Dale's method actually looks like. Mike's going to be going through the same mixing order here in all one container. I'm going to show you what each one of these components looks like as they hit water, so you understand the method of the mixing and the importance of each one. So with our Dale's method, again, we're going to start off with a dry product, which you can see I'm going to pour into my clean water, and you'll be able to see those dry pellets hit the bottom of your tank. And so obviously we need to agitate, and you can start to see those things disperse and color that water. Mike has already pre-slurred that, so you can kind of see what that looks like. Next in our mixing order is going to be the A for AMS. I'm going to go ahead and add my AMS into this bottle here. It's a dry product. And you can see this is our water conditioning product. And because it's dry AMS in this case, again, we're going to need to agitate and let that dissolve. This is important when we're mixing in this order to get the dry product in here and give it time to completely disperse, because it needs that free water to break those apart. If we would happen to get AMS in front of some of these, it can actually coat some of those pellets and make it harder for that to dissolve. So that's why you see dries, then your AMS next. Your next product in the Dale's is going to be the liquids, okay? So in this case, I'm going to use Liberty, and it's nice because it's a liquid going into a liquid, so I can actually just squirt this right into my bottle here. And you can see this is a very forgiving compound. It's already starting to mix in there with a little bit of agitation. I'm going to turn this entire mixture pink, right? So we see that mixture in that solution where that liquid would be. Okay. Lastly, or next to last, I should say, is going to be the emulsifiable concentrates. This is more of an oil-based formulation. You're going to note that even though it looks brown in the syringe, when we hit the water, it's going to bloom into a nice white solution. This is because that oil is starting to use some of that water in here to mix. These are pretty easy to mix, but if you get these in the solution a little bit too early, what happens is it makes some of those other components hard to dissolve and mix together as well. So it's important that we mix each one of these in the right order. And then lastly, you could put a surfactant in there like an oil or an NIS. That would go in last. They're also very forgiving. So Mike, what's your solution looking like here now that you got all yours put together?
Yeah, so not quite the same color as what some of the bottles you've got over there, but that's because we put all these products in the same tank. So one thing you probably noticed that while Jared was over here mixing these components individually, I was taking quite a bit of time mixing these in the same bottle just to make sure that we don't get any products that are coming into contact with each other. We want to make sure that they are getting into solution before we start adding the next product, because we don't want those coming into contact with each other, or you can get some of the issues that we talked about earlier. So when you're doing this in a real life situation, make sure you're taking the time for those products to get into solution. And there are a few exceptions to this rule as well, Jerry.
Yeah, there are. 99% of the time, or maybe even more than that, this Dale's method will treat you right. But there are some exceptions to every rule, like Mike said, and one that comes to top of mind would be Enlist. So if you look specifically in the Enlist labels, they like to maybe be in earlier. than other products. So you may even put those in before your AMS depending on what your mix might be. So make sure you consult those Enlist labels. They seem to like a little bit more clean water and maybe go in earlier. And if you're mixing more than one liquid in there, like Roundup and Enlist would be two things that are both liquids, you're gonna want that Enlist in there first and get it in cleaner water.
Yep, and then another exception would be some of the DRAs that we use with our formulated dicamba products for use in dicamba tolerant soybeans. A lot of those are going to require the use of a DRA, and those DRAs are a little bit different, so make sure you're checking the label. Some of them prefer to be earlier in the mixing order, some prefer to be later. Yeah, and you know, because we sometimes touch new mixes all the time, it's oftentimes good to play with it for the first time in a jar scenario or a small bottle like such. It's not that sometimes the best to be making gunk or getting out of order if you're not for sure what you're doing in a full-size sprayer. So we will say if it's the first time making this mix, or if you've had problems in the past, like let's say last year you got to the end of the year and you cleaned out your sprayer and you got a little bit of gunk in there, it may be best just to go back through this step and make sure everything you have looks compatible and you're also using that right mixing order to ensure we have the best success in getting all this stuff into solution like what Mike's bottle looks like. I agree, Jared. So guys, we covered a very important topic today. We covered a lot of points along that process. If you have any questions about the topics that we covered, feel free to leave some comments in the area below and we'll try to address those in the future.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. The thoughts and comments expressed on these videos are the opinions and property of the Nozzleheads. Be sure to like and subscribe down below to be notified of new videos and future content.